existing social programs that require, intervention, health, education, local governments are all areas that we will be tracking. Also, because of the Public Finance Management Act, we do know there are more stringent ways of tracking what goes into the consolidated fund and what, earmarked funds to track what we're using the money for. For now, it is a directive, and until anything else happens, to the extent that the president has given this directive, we anticipate that it is what is going to be as long as possible until otherwise directed to be reversed.
But MP for Ikuapem North, Samia Oku, says if the president is serious about the decision, then he must close the fuel vending point at the Jubilee House and the Osu Castle.
If the president wants to really show that he's committed on this fuel allowance and the cutting down of fuel and scrapping of it, I'm challenging them to close down the fuel depot at the castle, and that's at Jubilee. Because with that, then that means they are no longer going to take the fuel for free. Number two, who is a political appointee? Because the publication said political appointees. Does it include ministers? Does it include CEOs? Does it include presidential staffers? So who are the political appointees? Are you just talking ministers or deputies, or ministers, deputies, CEOs? Again, I need clarification on what is the definition of the fuel allowance. Does it mean fuel for any political appointee? Or are they trying to say that the money that will be used to pay by these appointees, it will be refunded or they will be made to pay back? There's clarity on that we need. Then again, how much is being spent on these fuel allowances, so that after scrapping, how much savings are we making? So these are very serious questions that we need to ask. Let me ask a very interesting question. If the Minister for Communication drives from here to Adan or to Ningo Pram Pram to do government business, at the end of the day, is he returning the fuel in the fuel that the state bought for that vehicle to get him to Adan or Ningo Pram Pram and back? Or there will be some way, somehow, there wouldn't be any fuel at all. So clearly, if you ask me, I think there are more questions to be asked with this particular directive. I just see it as populist. It's just public gimmick and a clear case of PR and settings. That's what I would say.
So that's the description the minority is given this. But the NDC MP for Commander Edna Egwafwe Brim, Samuel Atam Mills, says the president has shown he is committed to protecting the public purse.
I think it's a great idea. Do you know how many government vehicles we have? So many government vehicles, and I think it's setting a good example that they should buy their own fuel. I think that would be good for the nation, yes. But you see, they are private. Is it for the private vehicles, but not necessarily for the ministries? So if it's their private vehicles that they should, not private vehicles, but the vehicles that they use for business, and if it's cutting it off, I think that is good.
Won't this affect the operations of ministers in particular?
No, it will not. Why will it affect the operations of the minister?
If a minister is supposed to go around on an inspection tour and all that, is he supposed to do this from his own pocket?
Members of parliament, don't we go around? Some of the ministers, are they not members of parliament? And then they go around just like we do. And we, the members of parliament, we buy our own fuel. Nobody gives any member of parliament fuel allowance. No, we buy our own fuel. Whether coupons or whatever, we buy our own fuel. So you are a minister and then you are buying your own fuel. You are just sacrificing a little bit for the nation. That is it.
Well, since the news broke, some stakeholders have been reacting to this development, and one of them is the founding president of Imani Africa, Franklin Kojo, who described the move a little propagandist, quote from him. Despite welcoming the move, he spoke to Joy News Desk with Mami AC.
You know, if you were not receiving something in the past, and now you at least you get something, you got to be appreciative. I mean, I think it may sound, yes, it is political. It is a little propagandist, but I don't think it is unwise. And I think in this economy that we are operating right now, you cannot just how do I call it? You cannot just say that any savings at all is wrong. I think it's perfect. It's a good sign, really. But there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's a good thing. Don't forget that these things go further to show that at least the politician is thinking about getting up his or allowance as well. So for me, it's a good thing. As I said, there are minuses and pluses here and there. And I think for the president to say that, look, we think we can significantly save this amount. I mean, how do you go to the people to pay one city? And I still think that amount of money is too high, really. I still think I think it should be about 40% or so. I think it's just too high. But even then, how do you come to people and tell them to pay 1 city per liter, and then all these ministers are gobbling up all these resources by way of allowances anyway? So I think it's a good thing the president did, and kudos to him. However you see it, whether it's propagandist, it's populist, or not, there's some savings. Look at how long it took him to fill those deputy ministerial positions. Now I think it's reached 60, right?
Right, yeah.
That's the kind of thing we want.
So that's a founding president of Imani Africa, Franklin Kojo, there. But our research team has been pouring through what has been coming up in reaction to this particular announcement. And Isaac Kofi, who's a lead researcher here, joins me in studio with more. Kofi, what more are we learning on this?
Well, Kojo, so what we understand is that this is not the first time that a government is hoping to cut down on expenditure through these means. So we understand in 2023, the MPP administration, the former finance minister Kenneth Ofori-Atta was in parliament, and the 2023 budget made a similar projection, and that was a 50% cut on fuel allowances. For that, it was very clear. We saw it black and white in the budget, and it reads, Mr. Speaker, the following additional expenditure measures approved by government will be implemented to improve public sector efficiency and effectiveness. It says MDAs, MMDAs and SOEs are directed to reduce fuel allocations to political appointees and heads of MDAs, MMDAs and SOEs by 50%. This directive applies to all methods of fuel allocation, including coupons, electronic cards, chit systems, fuel depots, and accordingly, 50% of the previous year's, that's the 2022 budget allocations for fuel shall be earmarked for official business, pertaining to MDAs, MMDAs, and SOEs. So you could see it was very clear, the target and what government was really wanted to do. But this time around, the message is there, but in terms of who government is targeting, it's not very clear. And we understand that already. If you look at fuel allocations that government is giving to public sector workers, it's already spending on average 500 million Ghana cedis there. 2022 is spent 438 million Ghana cedis on fuel, allowances to the public sector, and spent about 600 million Ghana cedis in 2023. If you add the two, we're talking about somewhere around 1.4 billion Ghana cedis in that year. And we already understand that there is that big gap between how much the IMF thinks government should spend versus how much government wants to spend. So IMF project that, look, your total expenditure for 2025 should be around 267 billion Ghana cedis. But if you go into government budget, they have put total expenditure without arrears clearance, amortization at 271 billion. So there is that big difference. And the question is this one of the reasons, or is it one of the means that government is using to fill some of these loopholes?
Interesting bit of information there. Thank you very much. That's Isaac Kofi, is lead research analyst here at Joe News. This is Top Story. Time now for us to bring in Professor Godfred Bokpeng. He's Professor of Finance at the University of Ghana Business School. Prof, I'm grateful to you for joining us here. Now, you've been concerned about how this economy is run, and you've always been an advocate of cut in government expenditure. What do you make of this news that government says we're going to scrap fuel allowances for government political appointees?
I welcome this development. First of all, good evening to you and good evening to our cherished listeners. I think it's a right move. I commend the president. Look, let me tell you something. If you look at the approach of this president is quite different from the way he organized government in his first term. If you look at the IMF supported program, and I want to situate that so that I'll be able to respond to this question that you have asked. Our main criticism of the original IMF supported program was that it was less heavy on expenditure cuts and rather pushed the burden of the adjustment to taxpayers and then creditors or people who have bought into Ghana government instruments. So the fiscal adjustment, which was supposed to be 5% of GDP annually, more than 60% of that fiscal adjustment was going to come from revenue enhancement, and just around less than 50% or less than 40% was going to come from expenditure cuts. But guess what the president did in the 2025 budget? And if you read the IMF fourth review report, you see how the IMF acknowledged this leadership by saying that the government has switched more towards expenditure-based fiscal consolidation rather than the revenue-based approach that we have seen in the time past, which was also a marked departure from what we saw under the previous administration when we're talking of cutting wasteful spending and all of that. So these are low-hanging fruits that I believe that the president is looking at cutting in order to balance the budget. Not just to balance the budget. You can see from the direction the president is going that he wants to free up fiscal space to be able to accommodate his flagship programs without burdening the taxpayer. So to that extent, I think I commend the president. I'm sure they will go. The step forward will be to give us what the impact will be, what has been the expenditure on fuel allowance in the last 8 years or so, or probably even during his first term. Because you see, anything the president does right now, I take it very serious. Why? He has been there before. The president told us during the campaign that they were spending on the average, I think, about 5 billion Ghana cedis on cabinet retreat or so. So with the benefit of that experience, any step the president takes is a calculated one, well-intentioned, and I think there is a way to go. Normally, in terms of monitoring, this approach is better than what we have seen in the time past, where government said they were cutting those allowances by 30% or so. It was difficult to monitor. This one is a complete scrapping, and it's easier to monitor that. So the next level, and I'm sure now is the job of government communicators, is to tell us what the annual savings is going to be and how this is going to be deployed and how this will benefit especially the vulnerable in our society. I'm sure it could get so many students out of what we call school under the trees and all of that. So I commend the president. Is the way to go. Okay. But of course, the monitoring and the disclosure and all of that must also come along so that we are able to understand the impact of this move.
But how should the monitoring be done and who should do it? Because government says I'm doing this. Must it be left to government to monitor what it says it will do?
Yeah, I think in the interest of governance, and I take note that the government has also launched this accountability series and all of that without sufficient information and disclosure to the public, to the citizens. This news will not last for long. Because remember, our challenge with the previous administration was how to monitor those cuts in allowances and all of that, only for the IMF program to tell us that not much savings was accommodated under that. So the president, we have all learned from that, and they will give us a lot more information. Actually, we have a way of getting to know to some extent. So in the next couple of hours or so, we will be able to inform Ghanaians also with what we have been able to get. But it will be good for the government to take the lead, that this is the decision they have taken. This is the fiscal impact analysis. In fact, it will only be consistent with our Public Financial Management Act. Okay, even for bills that goes to Parliament, I think under Section 100 or so, every bill that goes to Parliament must be accompanied by fiscal impact analysis, right? So every decision that government takes, we have to do that fiscal impact analysis and put that out there. If we had an independent fiscal council operating right now, that independent fiscal council would have done the analysis of this decision on our public purse, or on our revenue expenditure interaction, whether this will have implication for debt sustainability. Otherwise, you see that, for instance, in the U.S., when the President Trump's beautiful bill or whatever went to Congress, the Congressional Budget Office did analysis. They did all the projections in the next 10 years, how this will add to the U.S. public debt and all of that. And I'm sure when the Fiscal Council is properly constituted, they will be able to do this independently to Ghanaians. That way, we are able to assign proper credit for good leadership.
All right, do stay with me. Let me bring in a former Deputy Chief of Staff in the Akufo-Addo government, Samuel Abu Jinapo. I'm grateful to you, sir, for joining us here. Now, this should be a welcoming news. You reduced it by 50%. Government says I'm doing it 100%. I'm taking it away. Good news for us, right?
Well, thank you very much, my good friend, and a very good evening to your cherished listeners. First of all, I think it's welcome. There's absolutely no two ways about that. Any effort to reduce the cost of running government machinery and still keeping the government effective and efficient should be welcome. But I think it's important that we nuance it. To begin with, President Akufo-Addo slashed fuel allowances by 50%. I can state to you on authority that even the 50% that was to be available and enjoyed was very much on paper. I was in government for 8 years. I never received fuel allowance even once. Secondly, where I think the government should focus on, and if indeed the government wants to cut costs on account of fuel expenditure, is what we call fuel depots or fuel stations. So across the country, government runs fuel depots or fuel stations, as it's commonly referred to, under the auspices of GOEL. And so if you go to the office of the president, for example, there is a fuel station at the castle. There's a whole fuel station at the castle where government appointees draw fuel from. There is another fuel station at Jubilee House, but at the time we were leaving office, it wasn't operational. I don't know if it's operational now. And I do know, for example, that government of Ghana owes GOEL millions of cedis. Office of the President owes GOEL millions of cedis. And they keep knocking on the door of Office of the President, Government of Ghana to pay. This is part of the problem GOEL has.
Did you remember how much exactly that is?
Oh, a lot of money, running to millions of cedis.
100 million,
I can get you the hundreds of millions of cedis. Okay. And this is a debt accumulated over the years, not just under the Akufo-Addo administration. And then you also have situations of abuses, abuse of these fuel stations. The police, for example, have fuel stations. The armed forces have fuel stations across the country. But specifically on Government of Ghana, the Office of the President has a fuel station at the Old Castle, and they have a fuel station at Jubilee House. And this is where government appointees draw fuel. And so I think the government or the President, His Excellency the President, should rather focus on that. I mean, we've tried to put in all kinds of measures to streamline how fuel was drawn from these places and the debt and also the expenditure on account of fuel. So scrapping fuel allowance simplicity, in my view, doesn't save us much or anything. Because I can say on authority that even the 50% was not paid. And secondly, where the fuel was drawn principally is normally from the fuel depots or the fuel station. That's where the debt accumulates, and that's where the expense accrues.
If
so
you
the government really wants to save money to the public exchequer on account of fuel usage or fuel expenditure, that is where I think they should look at.
If you say the 50% was not paid, what do you mean?
Oh, it was not paid. I mean, just as many government privileges and entitlements like accommodation allowances and all of that, Ministry of Finance will just not release the money. So you are entitled to it on paper, but you don't get it. But I'm raising this point not even to spell out what happened under the Akufo-Addo administration, but to make the point that you will not make any savings, much savings or any at all, just on account of saying I've scrapped fuel allowances. Because that is not where the bulk of the expenditure is. The bulk of the expenditure on account of fuel is at the fuel depot. So if I was told, if we had been told, for example, that henceforth all fuel depots where government appointees draw fuel from are no longer in operation. They've been shut down. And fuel allowances are not also entitled to fuel allowances. Then I'll be confident that we will save money to the public exchequer. But on account of fuel allowance alone, I'm afraid.
What do we do to the infrastructure then? I mean, if we say we've shut them down, what do we do?
Well, you can deploy for other purposes. People can draw fuel from these depots and pay for them. I mean, like we do every day. You go to Shell or whatever.
So turn them into filling stations, you say.
And I say this not from a partisan lens. I know what I'm talking about. I was Deputy Chief of Staff. Where the money, where you have the leak, where you have the leakage, and where you have the expenditure is at the fuel depots. That's where we should pay attention to.
How much were you supposed to receive if the money were being paid?
Well, I don't have it now, but I never. I mean, I don't want
you didn't receive it.
But I never receive any allowance. I never drew fuel from the depot.
You made that point.
But I know how the system works.
Okay.
That's where all the appointees draw fuel from almost on a weekly basis.
All right.
And that's where the expenditure is.
I'm grateful to you. Let me bring in the Vice Chair of the Economy and Development Committee of Parliament, Kofi Akonoko. I'm grateful to you, sir, for joining us. Now, would you agree with your colleague member of Parliament who's proposing that government should go beyond just the scrapping of allowance and close down all of these, points that government appointees do take fuel from?
Thank you very much, Kojo, for the opportunity, and then let me extend my warm greetings to all your listeners. Kojo, I think where we need to start this whole argument is that President Mahama needs to be commended. I mean, he has indicated from day one that he means business, and that our policy of resetting the economy of Ghana and Ghana in total is working. And so he cannot just bench on even just this policy. There are a lot of policies that President Mahama has put across, i.e. the cut down of the government appointees. That has saved the Ghanaian taxpayer billions of cedis on an annual basis. Next is his message across that his appointees must not embark on first-class tickets. But coming down to this, government appointees not being allocated fuel, I think it's a good policy.
Yes.
Yes, because myself as an MP, I'm not allocated any fuel. You understand? Imagine even if these MPs, 276 MPs, were also allocated fuel for free. Just imagine the burden that it would have been on the state.
Now, Abu Jinapo is proposing that we move it a step further by closing down the various points across the country where government appointees draw fuel from, because he thinks that is the main issue that government should need to be looking at.
No matter what it is, this is not a one-time policy that we are putting across. There are a series of policies, series of research policies that the president is bringing up. So, first of all, he must be commended. Imagine if this policy had been implemented by the previous administration. Imagine the amount of money that would have been saved by the state. So, what I want us to bench the argument on last. First of all, we must commend President Mahama for standing the grounds to indicate to every Ghanaian, especially the appointees, that things, the business of the day, must not be as usual, business as usual.
All right.
And it's a good thing. Kojo.
Okay, I'm grateful to you. That's Kofi Akonoko. He's Vice Chair of the Economy and Development Committee. But let me ask you. I mean, did you consider the proposal you've made when you were in government to shut down these various points where government appointees draw fuel from? Okay, we've lost Abu Jinapo. Let me bring in Professor Bokping. Prof, so in terms of the savings, how must we utilize them to say that, well, we scrapped this allowance and we're able to then put up these ones as benefits?
Yes, so as I indicated, they will need to give us the fiscal impact report of this. I also agree with Abu Jinapo, because in the run-up to the IMF-supported program, when we were talking about cutting wasteful spending, yes, the abuse from the fuel depots was one of the things that came up strongly. So I want to believe that given that the president is on a cost-cutting path, wasteful expenditure cuts. I will not go for closing the depots totally because of the function that it serves to the executive and all of that. But I think that we have to find a more efficient way of utilizing that and minimize the abuse. So otherwise, yes, in terms of it going through their salary, they may not feel it that much, but they are drawing for heavily on weekly basis and all of that, even to go for private funerals and all of that. So I believe that it's not just a one-off. I can understand that. And I believe that somebody probably will be doing this analysis and will present the president with a report as to how the fuel depot are being utilized across the entire country, even not only just in terms of ministers. We're also looking at it across the security agencies so that we minimize abuse. Because sometimes the issue is the abuse. They were designed for good reasons, but we tend to abuse it and a whole lot of things that come along with it and all of that. So I think we have to go a step further, but I want to believe that it's also worth commending that the president has taken this. This is not just in isolation. If you look at it from January and the steps that the president is taking, and also what we have seen in the 2025 budget and all of that, we know that it's not every minister or governor appointed that is currently happy with the 2025 budget because of the wasteful expenditure cut, even travel, conference, and all of that. Okay, I remember just recently I went for a program somewhere, actually outside the country, and I was told that the Ministry of Finance couldn't send reps and all of that because of budget cut and all of that. I don't know how true that was, but that was the explanation that was given by the contact person over there and all of that. So I think that, yes, there's a certain drive in terms of wasteful expenditure cut. We need to look at the entire value chain and see what other further savings can we make and all of that. Given that government from 2026 will have to allocate resources to implementing their flagship programs. For now, they've done well by launching the policies. So the good intentions have been made known to Ghanaians, but we cannot substitute that for accomplishment. To translate the good intentions in those policy documents and all of that into actual will require the backing of financial resources.
Grateful to you, Professor Boping, for joining us here. Professor Godfrey Boping is Professor of Finance at the University of Ghana Business School. And that's how we wrap up the top story brought to you by Telecel Connect. And Energy's up next is Newsnight.
In the next 60 minutes here on Newsnight, NDC declares readiness to cooperate with police to track down Ablekuma North rerun thugs after governing party's Deputy General Secretary disclosed his personal knowledge of some of the thugs.
I can identify some of them who are MPP, some of them who are NDC. Of course, if they bring the videos, I can show you MPP people there, I can show you NDC people there. And you see, when you interrogate the issue, everybody... Would you hand them over to the police?
And government finally to implement the Ayawaso West Wagon by-election Commission of Inquiries report with the establishment of an independent police complaints commission.
Independent Police Complaint Commission, which will be responsible for promoting confidence in the general public, investigate serious incidents.
Also tonight, MPP's 5-member committee charged to mend relationship with agreed former President Kufuor reports positive engagement after first meeting.
The council decided to nominate and indeed nominated some 5 people to have an engagement.
And also tonight, the Bank of Ghana governor is standing his ground, dismissing doubts about CD's resilience, criticizing the reliance on public speculation rather than data-driven analysis. As it signals to the IMF, the country has enough forex to sustain exchange rate stability.
There should be no doubts about sustainability. Somebody asked me, do you think you can sustain the stability of the exchange rate? And I said, have you read the background data? These things should be informed by the evidence.
In business, Chamber of Petroleum Consumers projects up to 8% increase in fuel prices at the pumps from tomorrow.
And in sports, we hear from Black Queen's head coach Kim Las-Boyke-Green, who has expressed confidence in his team's ability to rise to the challenge of the knockout phase of the ongoing Women's AFCON following their qualification to the quarterfinals.
You want to join us with your views and comments here on Newsnight? Send me a WhatsApp 05511119997. Details after this.
Small money day, big money day, way too much money day. Telecel too much money promo drop. If you dial *500#, then join them for the Telecel too much money promo inside. You will win 100 Ghana cedis cash for the daily draws, 20,000 Ghana cedis for the weekly draws, then 1.2 million Ghana cedis for the grand draw inside. That be 1.2 million Ghana cedis. You for just reload airtime, then get points with it make you win. Make you dial *500# or go the Telecel Play app top. Then book inside riders give the Telecel too much money promo. Terms and conditions apply.
Telecel, connecting energies.
This promo will be NLA where they regulate them for the Caritas Lottery platform top.
Couldn't sleep at night. Mosquitoes will be whining my ears, bugging me all night long. Till I got a remedy. Now I'll be spraying them away with holy insecticide spray. I go spray them away with holy insecticide spray. When I sleep, me dana maga with holy insecticide spray.
Holy mosquito coil, holy multi-purpose insecticide spray. Ghana Kron Kron. For bulk purchase, call 0302 681582. This advert is FDA approved.
You're live on Newsnight is on Joy 99.7 FM. The main opposition NDC is tonight ready to fully cooperate with the police to track down the thugs who inflicted chaos and violence during the Ablekuma North rerun elections. It follows a disclosure by the party's Deputy General Secretary Mensah that he personally knows some of the individuals involved in the violent confrontation that plagued the rerun. Now, speaking on PM Express, Mensah revealed that he has knowledge of the attackers and their identities and expressed his willingness to cooperate fully with the police to ensure that they are brought to justice. The Ghana police has since issued a statement calling out the public to volunteer information which could lead to an arrest and prosecution of those involved. The Deputy General Secretary says that he is willing to cooperate.
For us,
because you make the point.
For us, we have to take personal responsibility of this. For us,
because you make the point.
For us, we have to take personal responsibility of this.
Which part of this you take responsibility for?
We were part of the election, right? Be it as it may, and because I was there, these individuals, the colleague brothers that you saw there, I can identify some of them who are MPP, some of them who are NDC. But you see, we are all the same brothers. Just as Mohammed sitting here, we come from the same village. We are actually brothers. The same way these individuals are also brothers. We know their faces. We know them. They know themselves. They know who is MPP and they know who is NDC. When we won election, most of the boys you see around actually came from the MPP. They are not traditional NDC boys. Most of them are MPP guys who are disappointed. They've been used and dumped. There was no closure with this boy. So they have come to join us, and some of them still harbor the frustration, the sacrifices they've made for their own party, haven't been disbanded and haven't been... Of course, if they bring the videos, I can show you MPP people there, I can show you NDC people there. And you see, when you interrogate the issue, everybody...
Would you hand them over to the police?
Who hand them over to who?
You identify some of the thugs.
For what?
So you
what
know
have they
them.
done?
For engaging in the
violent
conduct.
You have about 200 people in a place. A handful go to commit a crime. I should hand over the 200 people to the police.
At least those you can identify.
Get the
because you said
so
let
the police, let the police do their work.
So they should invite him.
If at any point in time the police feel that because some of us were there, party leaders were there, so we need to answer some questions.
On the back of your admission, I know some of them. Would you cooperate with the police and identify some of them if they invite you?
Of course. We will do that. We will cooperate. Because you see, the Minister for Interior made a strict disclosure to all of us. He says, look, this is condemnable. Those who are responsible will be brought to book to be treated as a crime. That is it.
Well, we're hearing now from the main opposition, New Patriotic Party. Its Deputy General Secretary, Haruna Mohammed, says the MPP will not take responsibility for what happened. However, he wants the police to act by inviting the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC.
I am happy that he has made clear admissions that they are using or they used boys they believe to be dissatisfied with us to go to Ablikmanov and cause mayhem. That these are persons that are dissatisfied with MPP and they went in there. And I sent you a video. He made it, yes.
He says they will take personal responsibility and do something.
For the violence, we did not perpetuate violence there.
Okay.
You didn't see Brian Champong going there slapping people or whipping people or clearing them on the ground. You didn't see Miracle went there slapping people. You did not see Hawa Kumsin went there beating up people. You did not see. It was rather the NDC that was beating them. Did you hear that one NDC person has been hospitalized?
Well, we're yet to get an update from the police themselves, but we've been hearing from the former secretary to the Millshot Commission that looked into the Ayawaso by-election violence, and on the back of that commission, they put together a report, and they, in the report, had several recommendations. Professor Kofi Abuchi says it is pretty heartbreaking that the report has been abandoned. He wants this current president to intervene. We'll hear him on that pretty shortly, but he wants an independent police complaints commission to look into these matters because this was part of the recommendation in the Ayawaso West Wagon by-election commission report.
When the police misbehave, quote unquote, the police will have to investigate the police. And it's counterintuitive to think about it this way. So in many jurisdictions, what they have is an independent body that oversees the police when there are complaints about the police. Because typically it doesn't make sense for an entity to investigate itself. The entity can, but given our history, we normally don't go far when an entity investigates itself. And so the recommendation to have the police to have an independent commission is for that commission to, as it were, oversee matters affecting the police. So, for instance, if you have complaints about police brutality, police excesses, police misconduct, professional misbehavior, all these complaints that affect the police, the expectation is that you have an independent commission. And that commission will receive reports, will undertake investigations, will conduct hearings, and will ensure that appropriate remedies are put in place moving forward. I think the recommendations are still very much relevant today. And subject to some, some changes if the government so desires, subject to some revisions, these recommendations can still be implemented. I think it will be a tribute to his government's activism in this respect, given that the government is only 6 months old. It will be a tribute to his activism if he implements the recommendations, given that the recommendations are already how many years, 5 years or so, lying on the books and gathering dust. If he's able to implement them, I think it will be a massive tribute to his activism in this respect and the fact that he is a bit more sensitive to the issues involved. And I think posterity will certainly judge him right if he certainly comes around to implement it.
Well, we've also heard from the current Interior Minister, Mensah Mubarak, who says government is actually ready to implement parts of that Ayawaso West Wagon by-election commission of inquiry report, particularly the part where they demanded that the government should implement an independent police complaints commission.
In the next 6 months, we will start work on independent police complaint commission, which will be responsible for promoting confidence in the general public, investigate serious incidents, setting standard, operate independent of the police administration, among others, just to give our citizens the hope and belief that if a police officer misbehaves.
There is the
It's your
Interior
day
Minister.
off and you end up
I
looking
want to
after the
bring in
baby
now, joining us is in Team Kojo, who is a ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament. Thank you, sir, for your time here on Newsnight. Let us start with what we heard from the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. He's honest enough to indicate that, yes, he personally knows some of the individuals who were involved in the chaos at the Blakemore North, and that his party is taking responsibility because they are politicians. First, does your party acknowledge that there is a need then for yourselves also, because you're also a player in this, to take some responsibility at least for the chaos that we saw over the weekend?
Yeah, thank you, Evans. The matter is clear. This is a matter of criminality. Individuals were clearly seen in videos and pictures identified as perpetrating crime at various polling stations in the rerun of Blakemore North elections. It's a simple matter of the police cracking a whip, prosecuting the persons involved. We are hoping to hear arrests made of all those culprits who were deployed to the polling stations, and as has been admitted by officials of the NDC, that they deployed them, they dispatched them in political vigilantism to go and ostensibly exact such violence on innocent persons going to cast their vote.
I mean, I haven't heard an NDC official say they deployed thugs, though.
They have, just from the submission he made, they have admitted that they know them, they identify them as NDC sympathizers. Somebody despised the facts, somebody organized them, and somebody gave them a specific mandate. Evans, it is fast becoming a concern in this country, the threats of political vigilantism. And lessons from Ayawaso, West Wagon, and lessons from previous elections taught all of us to come to a consensus, to disband all forms of political vigilance. Now, what we have seen clearly is that NDC kept theirs. NDC acted in bad faith and dispatched, hundreds of the attacks to go and cause mayhem in the rerun of just 19 polling stations. This is a very concerning, because if it is not nipped in the bud and just left between a matter of political parties come and take responsibility, it is going to embolden the facts involved. It is going to embolden the party, NDC in this case, who dispatched. And if care is not taken, it might call for a reprisal in subsequent elections that we want to see. Ghana hasn't taken a decision to go back to days of dictatorship. So all we have is democracy. So we have many elections ahead of us. So it is so important that in the conduct of these elections, they are conducted free, fair, and peaceful manner, devoid of political vigilantes, despite to go and exact mayhem on innocent persons. And the only way to root it out is to treat it as a criminal enterprise. Any political party that dispatches persons to police stations, when they are caught on camera assaulting, trying to kill, trying to assaulting in the most unimaginable way, under full glare of cameras, they have to arrest them. Crime doesn't know colors, whether you're NDC, whichever party dispatched you. We've seen the videos. So for all these days, what has stopped the police from arresting the people involved and prosecuting them?
We are yet to hear from the police on that, but you are a ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee. Is there something you want to do about that?
Oh yes, as part of the things we're doing, we're inviting the Minister for the Interior and other related ministers and the National Security Coordinator. We need to have a conversation, a broader conversation on so many issues. This is going to be one topical issue that we're going to discuss. We want a full briefing on the arrests that have been undertaken following the atrocities we saw in the rerun of Ablikmanot, the prosecutions that have followed, and other actions they are putting in place to ensure the sanctity of future elections that is to be conducted.
Intim Kojo, thank you very much. He's a ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee. Professor Kwesi Ening is a security consultant, joins us on the line right now. And Prof, I'm grateful that you joined us. Musa Fagban, the Deputy General Secretary, says, yes, he knows some of the facts. Some of them are MPP folks and others are NDC folks. He's honest enough to admit that. What should the police do with that information?
Well, I think the police should invite him for a conversation. Because this is the first time that a senior politician and one whose party is in government accepts or confirms that he knows individuals who actually committed to him. And it's instructive that he comes out publicly to say this. So I think the expectation is that the head of the CIA should invite. And let's give us the information that he has. Because by coming out in public, it's reflective of his willingness and preparedness to provide the information that we are looking for. So kudos to Mr. Bande.
We are now at least 3 days after the elections, and the police, at least yesterday when we were updated by the Interior Minister, they were still looking at the video footage that was abundantly available. We still haven't heard from them yet if they picked up anybody. Your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, I think that's a bit disappointing because the figures were clear. If you play the video in slow motion at different speed, you can actually stop the video when they fit in full shot, expand it, and there are all kinds of even downloadable software for our phones to make blurred pictures. So I don't think that's the fact that after almost 84 hours, nobody was invited by the police, and it takes Mr. Bande to actually say, we need to do something about it, and I know something. So that's an indictment against the president.
What about the political parties themselves? We've talked about Bande's own honesty on this. What about the NPP? I mean, they were all in together as far as these elections are concerned. Yesterday, for example, we had the Peace Council now reaching out to both parties for a meeting to try and get to the bottom of this. Also because of the Equatia by-elections, which is now looming. Should the two parties now be in a room mediated by the Peace Council, and should the police get involved in getting the leadership to get to the bottom of this?
Well, and so sometimes I'm just shocked and surprised by the behavior and performance of the council. Very reactive, hardly proactive, drags you to do anything at all, frightened of their own circles, that it may darken the presence of politicians. So it's increasingly becoming quite a useless organization, if you ask me. Truly. I think what should be done is for the Parliamentary Committee on Interior and Defense and the Parliamentary Committee on Security and Intelligence to call the two service and to question them as to why they haven't done anything. You see, because every single day or hour that passes, the evidence gets colder and colder and colder. And I wouldn't be surprised if at a point in time somebody tells us that, oh, there was some, data crash and all the evidence of all the pictures are lost. Okay, so I warn you. So please, Mr. James Tagaga, Mr. Steve Kojo, Reverend Steve Kojo, and co, please, write to the appropriate institution that say to the victims and call them and ask them why they are not delivering. Because you see, it's not always that the president must issue it. The Interior Minister has publicly told us that he personally has forwarded some of the videos. Okay, that is not the Interior Minister's job, but he wants to demonstrate his commitment to get into the bottom of it, and says, I forwarded some of the videos to X, and he gave it press statement probably close to about 36 hours ago, and so nothing like that. So Parliament, up and doing, is our taxpayers' money going down the drain. Okay, because if you keep quiet, then the impunity continues. The sense that I can do what I want because I have a godfather or godmother continue. But why are we worried about Akotia? That is lazy analysis. If you've beaten me up today, and I want to retaliate, I am not going to retaliate at the first opportunity. Because I know you will come even better prepared. And those who fail to protect me will come seeking to demonstrate that they can do their work well. So, Akotia is not going to be the place where anything is going to happen. We should prepare. We should keep it in focus. But I'll be shocked if people are going to come to Akotia to cause mayhem.
Professor Kwesi Ening, thank you very much. He's a security consultant helping us with his thoughts on the developments around Ablekuma North and looking forward to the Equatia by-election. So live here on News 90 on Joy 99.7 FM. You want to share your thoughts with us, 055-1111-997. Now, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. John Sisiama, has countered skepticism from the International Monetary Fund about Ghana's ability to sustain exchange rate stability. Dr. Sisiama said policy decisions taken over the past 5 months has led to an improved macroeconomic indicators, including a current account surplus exceeding $2 billion in the first quarter, and international reserves topping $11 billion, equivalent to 4.8 months of import cover. He has dismissed doubts about the cedi's resilience, criticizing the reliance on public speculation rather than data-driven analysis. Listen.
We had the first meetings with the IMF team. There was a lot of pessimism. That was thinking about, should we just cancel the program and start all over again? But we decided to take the bull by the horns. And I believe that in the last 5 months, we've taken some very, very major decisions. Decisions that underscore the progress that we are seeing now. And so therefore, there should be no doubts about sustainability. Somebody asked me, do you think you can sustain the stability of the exchange rate? And I said, have you read the background data? These things should be informed by the evidence. Everything is out there in our statements. If you go to after MPC, we'll put out lots of data. But it appears in Ghana, the way we form our expectations when it comes to the exchange rate is to listen to the Zamana man, is to listen to the Alaji in the corner. And I think that's where the problem is. If you have a country whose trade surplus has doubled compared to last year, if you have a country whose current account has increased from a mere $66 million last year to over $2 billion in the first quarter of this year, Why are you surprised when the exchange rate is showing stability? And so my point is, please look at the data, the media. Focus on the data. When you are forming your projections about the exchange rate or whatever variable, look at the data. It's all there.
Let me bring in Kojo Nkrumah. He is a ranking member on the Economy and Development Committee in Parliament. Professor Patrick Assuming is an economist also. Both joins us on the line right now. Professor Assuming, to you first. I mean, we've seen the IMF raising red flags about the BOG's intervention in the market. The report talks about 1.4 billion forex intervention alone in the first quarter. But you listen to the governor, he's right, as you know, that the fundamentals are strong. You have a surplus there in terms of international reserves, topping $11 billion, 4.8 months of import cover. Clearly, they are in a position to sustain this over time. And if you've grown your reserves to that level, you are at liberty to intervene to shore up the city. You agree?
Good evening, Evans, and good evening to listeners. Well, yes, it's true that we've accumulated reserves, especially gold reserves, and that obviously means that the central bank is in a position to support it, as it has done since the impact, somewhat started from last year. However, I think we have to be careful, and I think the caution of the IMF is that yes, today our reserve position is strong. But if you continue pumping at that rate, I mean, the BOG will obviously run out of reserve very soon. It wouldn't be in a place. And we have to understand that at the moment, our commodities are doing extremely well on the international market. But those commodity prices are extremely volatile. It only takes some line in the price of gold, and suddenly our reserve position might change dramatically. So, while I believe that it's important for the central bank to stabilize the city, what we saw, especially March, April, May, was not stability. It was an attempt to raise the rate and make the city gain. And I think that's where people are concerned that perhaps not be sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, I want to bring in Kojo Nkrumah now. On the point of sustainability, the BOG governor says you simply need to look at the data. When you look at the data, Kojo, and I know you love data, you can't disagree with him, can you?
What the data says, and good evening to Professor Assuming, to yourself and to your listeners, good evening. What the data says is that our commodity prices are doing very well on the global market. The volumes have not necessarily changed. The volumes of commodity that we are selling have not necessarily changed, but it's the price that has changed. And as a result, we have earned a lot of foreign exchange. And instead of building some more buffers, what the government has done is that it has pumped it onto the market to suppress the cedi. The data and the trends over the period take a series of, let's say, about 10, 15 years. You will find out that whenever you start getting shocks on the commodity prices, your ability to intervene in the market is significantly reduced. And therefore, when the ordinary demand and supply for forex kicks in, your currency may come under pressure again. So I think the caution from the IMF, which should be taken in good faith, is that high levels of intervention beyond maybe some sporadic one or two is not sustainable, because you end up depleting your reserves. And if you deplete your reserves, should there be any global shocks, you may not have foreign exchange reserves to be able to continue a pattern of, importing essential commodities. You may come under significant currency depreciation, which will then translate into high cost of living for many people. I think it's caution that should be taken in good faith.
You're not in the camp of those who say long term this is not sustainable, are you?
I don't like to be a prophet of doom. I think what we should, even if there are worries about sustainability, what we should be doing is asking, so what do we do to sustain it? You recall one of the measures that the MPP administration brought up was a gold purchase program, part of which was being used as a swap for fuel. That was the Gold for Oil program, aimed at ensuring that our dollar demand was reduced. And then part of it was also to ensure that we were able to earn foreign exchange reserves. Now, this government is building on it. In fact, yesterday in Parliament, the government admitted that there's credit for the old administration, and they also take credit. They are building on it. That is a measure towards some sustainability. So I think the focus should be on how do we gain some more robustness in sustainability instead of being scared or being prophets of doom that is not sustainable. That's what, as a republic, we should look at.
And Prof, finally to you, the IMF, also today we learned from the BOG governor, the IMF required that in the first half of the year, we should have added just about $400 million to our external reserves. The BOG governor today disclosed that they've done 3 times that already. That clearly shows the position they are in now and for the future. That yes, they've exceeded the minimum requirement. That is building a buffer for the future, is it not? Which is really what you're advising. They're already doing that.
Well, I think building a buffer is important. The question is, we have to understand that what are we doing with the reserves right now? And the more buffers we build, the more we're able to keep the city stable at a particular rate for a while. And that, businesses, the stability that they are looking for, the predictability of that. And the concern is that if you keep, pumping the dollars at this rate, we are going through a very good patch. We are going through a purple patch at this moment in terms of our current accounts and then also our trade balances. But we know how vulnerable these are. And historically, we know it takes only something major to happen that we don't control. And then suddenly the trouble starts. So I think we could err on the side of holding the reserves and being ready to keep steady, relatively stable. I think what's happened that I found problem is how quickly we allow the currency to appreciate. And then when you do that, it's as much instability as allowing the city to depreciate very quickly. So my position has always been that we are better off holding the reserve to keep the city stable when the pressures come. Because we know that the pressures are going to come. Once we start making the payments that we are supposed to make, especially from 2026 and beyond, when we have to make even more payments in terms of our external debt services. So, I mean, that's my position, that we better hold on to more reserves and allow them to accumulate.
Professor Patrick Assuming, thank you very much. Kojo Nkrumah, I'm grateful that you joined us too. That's the ranking member on the Economy and Development Committee of Parliament. And still ahead here on Newsnight in a Habitat series, start a house or stay renting forever. That's a tough reality facing many middle-class families as rising costs leave half-built homes and frozen dreams behind.
As of the time we started, cement price was around 50 cedis per bag. And then within a period of 4 to 5 months, it jumped up to 60, 80.
Then we also tell you what happened when the 5-member committee set up by the NPP to try and mend the relationship with former President Kufuor met him. Exclusives for you after George. And George, you have some more intelligence on this IMF versus government subject on the forex interventions.
Yeah. It's interesting, but it appears that for the Bank of Ghana, the argument is that they are concerned. So let's say an account, say a management report or an input wasn't captured in the final report that was put out. But just like what you said earlier on, the Bank of Ghana believes that they've taken the right measures to deal with sustainability concerns going forward. So let's see. I mean, time would tell whether they are on the right path or not. Olivans expect up to 8% increase in fuel prices of the pounds from tomorrow as the oil marketing companies try to apply the 1 Ghana cedi levy on petroleum products. And Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama vows to take drastic measures to halt the dollarization of the economy. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essentials, Since Tanks and Pepsodent, Herbal and Charcoal. Let's now settle for the details. Now, prices of petroleum products could be going up by as much as 8% per litre from tomorrow. Now, that's according to the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Now, the Chamber argues the move has been influenced by the application of 1 cedi levy on every litre of petrol and diesel. Duncan Amwa is the Executive Secretary of the Chamber.
We are seeing a situation where the net effect of the 1 Ghana cedi to be added by January tomorrow, you net off what the international market numbers are saying, what the cedi stability or otherwise is also saying, and then what the new levy is indicating. Chances are that for petrol, you'll be paying about 6-7% more on current pump prices, whilst diesel could do as much as 9% more. LPG around the same 9% figure effective tomorrow. I do not foresee any of the oil marketing companies wait even an hour past midnight tonight, because any product that will be picked from this midnight per the GRA directive would attract the 1 Ghana cedi levy. And I know for a fact that none of the OMCs would want to shelve this 1 Ghana cedi, offset it anyway anyhow. So I am certain that by midday tomorrow, most of them would have adjusted their pumps already, because clearly GRA will be on their necks.
Duncan Amwa is the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Now, the Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama has promised the central bank will in the coming weeks be taking some drastic measures to hold the dollarization of the economy. He meant the bank will be taking more measures to prioritize the use of the Ghana cedi in the economy. The governor said this at the Graphic Stanbic Breakfast Series meeting at the Labadi Beach Hotel today.
We are still grappling with a deep-rooted culture of dollarization. Too many businesses continue to price in dollars, in real estate, education, and luxury retail, despite transacting entirely within Ghana. And this practice not only violates legal tender laws, but also undermines confidence in the cedi. We must actively protect the cedi's role in the domestic economy. In other words, we must support cedi dominance and de-dollarization. This involves enforcing our legal tender laws, and this will be stepped up by us very soon, especially in sectors where
Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Johnson Isiama. Let's still stay on the meeting because country partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers, Visha Shagbo, has described as prudent moves by the Bank of Ghana to explore hedging for gold exports. The Governor Johnson Isiama today announced that they are exploring hedging gold prices to mitigate future volatility. Now, Mr. Shagbo noted that this might be the right thing to do now.
Agree with him absolutely. And so for us, two fundamental things that I'll comment on very briefly. One is, as we benefit from the stronger external flows that we're getting, we must take the opportunity to restructure ourselves internally so that when the tide turns, we don't get back into the situation we were in a few years ago. So we are benefiting from higher commodity prices, etc. That definitely will not last forever. But whilst we benefit from that, we must deal with our weaknesses so that by the time the tide turns, we can have a smoother journey.
Visha Shagbo is the senior country partner of accounting and finance firm PricewaterhouseCoopers. Still on the cedi, economist Dr. Dusa Kodia says he prefers a stable local currency rather than a sharp appreciation. He's been responding to the Bank of Ghana's market interventions and concerns raised by market watchers.
The BOG could have limited their intervention, allow these factors to interplay and determine the exchange rate, and then when the need arises, in other words, when we get to the point where the cedi is depreciating, then they can intervene. But they kept on intervening, plus the other factors that caused the appreciation. It's better to keep the exchange rate at 15 cedis to a dollar for like 1 year, 6 months, or 1.5 years, than to have this up and down. Today is 12, the next day is 13, the next day is 17, the next day is 9. It doesn't do well for businessmen and women at all because they cannot plan with it.
And that is the economist Dr. Edu Owusu Sarkodie. Now, consumer goods manufacturing giant Premasador Ghana has launched nationwide consumer promotion dubbed Cowbell Coffee with You Every Moment to reward loyal consumers as the brand marks 20 years of serving Ghanaians. Now, speaking at the press conference to launch the promo, marketing manager Premasador Ghana, Michael Hagan, described the initiative as a token of appreciation for Ghanaians over the years.
Thank you, first of all, to our loyal consumers, and to reward them, we're saying that we're giving away close to over 50,000 prizes to be won in this Cowbell Coffee with You Every Moment promo. This promo is very, very easy to partake in. All we're saying is that just buy a sachet of the dedicated promo pack, and inside you would find a unique code which would serve as your ticket to enter this promo. Once you find the unique code, just enter this unique code through our USSD, which is *713*27# and follow the prompt, or you can scan the QR code which is on the packaging material. It will lead you to a microsite and just follow the instructions. Some of the things that we're giving away include gift vouchers, subscriptions to Netflix. For the music lovers, we are also offering music subscription on Spotify. There are smart TVs, laptops, PlayStation 5s, smartphones, cash, trips to 2 exotic places, and then the ultimate is a brand new 4x4 Suzuki Jimny.
Marketing manager at Premasador Ghana, Michael Hagan. And that's all for business on the Newsnight. Back to you, Evans.
John, thank you very much. Still live here on Newsnight. It's on Joy 99.7 FM. I'll be sharing with the rest of the world pretty shortly your comments on our WhatsApp line 05511119997. Now, I want to turn to the MPP. And you recall the concerns raised by former President John Agyekum Kufuor. Well, the party set up a 5-member committee to reach out to him to try and mend relationships. He had actually complained that the party had sidelined him. So how did that meeting go? We understand that meeting indeed came off yesterday. Joining me right now in the studio with more on this is my colleague Kenneth Jesse with details. What do we know?
Well, first of all, we have to know the persons on that particular committee. We have Natoshe, who is a former Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and also a Member of Parliament for Tema West. We also have former Vice Presidential candidate of the MPP and former Energy Minister Matthew Opoku Prempeh, former Trade Minister and MP for Adansi Asokwa Katie Hammond was also part of it, and also part of that particular committee is Kweku Ofori-Esiama, who is the former Transport Minister.
Do we know how the meeting went?
Well, the directive to the committee was simple: just go and see the former statesman at his residence. And from our sources, we're told that the former president, John Agyekum Kufuor, is currently out of the country, so the committee had to find another way to meet him. They settled for an online meeting, and that happened yesterday, hours after the emergency NEC meeting. That is all our sources are telling us for now. They say they're keeping the finer details themselves.
Thankfully, we can speak to a member of the 5-member committee, Katie Hammond, former MP for Adansi Asokwa, joins us live now on the line. Mr. Hammond, thank you for your time here on Newsnight. Will you describe this meeting as meeting your expectation and that it was successful?
Hello. I'm going to those listening to me. That allowance?
Yes, it is, Mr.
Hammond. Okay. How are you doing?
Tell me how that meeting went, Katie Hammond.
To start with, I don't recall that Natoshe ever became a Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. I just read the intro, your colleague introducing him as the former Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. I don't recall that. But yes, we did have the opportunity to have the meeting with our the former president. I haven't myself listened to the tape recording for what was supposed to have been said by him. But in talking to him, his response.
When you met him, can you hear me? I believe we met
I can, but I thought the line.
No, it's better. It's better now.
Is it better?
Yes, it is.
Well, I can hear my voice back.
Apologies for that, but you were saying.
Yes, okay. Yeah, so what I was saying was I have not myself had the recording, the so-called recording of sorry, forgive me, former president, for what supposed to have complained about the attitude of the party was him. But I think that we are part of the occasion to interact with him. But his responses were a little bit more nuanced than what the tablets have been put in the public domain. We didn't get the impression of plaintive cry. He wasn't that upset. He wasn't plaintively crying for anybody to come to his aid because the party appears to be treating him very badly. But we got a message to him, and he seems to have understood the point that the leadership of the party was all about.
So you say that in this meeting you managed to reassure him?
I'm not sure whether it was a bit more of a reassurance, but clarification of the clarification.
And he accepted that the party has
he accepted. He asked for a few more documentation, some pieces of documentation to be sent to him. But in a nutshell, I am not able to tell you exactly the details of the conversation because some of us have been complaining from the rooftop about the indiscipline in our party. So I wouldn't want to be mentioned as being on the part of that class of people who are so indisciplined. The party leadership commissioned us to speak with the former president. I haven't had the opportunity of speaking to them. So I didn't think it was appropriate to tell the world about how the conversation went when I haven't spoken to the leadership. But your one of your colleagues who called me gave the impression that you're already aware that I was part of the committee and I was prepared to speak to you and to assure you that it's all under control.
Katie Hammond, thank you very much. And that there is Katie Hammond, is a former MP for Adanse Asokwa. It's now time for sports, and Musbah is here with the latest.
Evans, well, we are now some 25 days exactly to the Joy Sports Invitational at the University of Ghana Stadium on August 9, and the companies are signing up. More and more of them are signing up, and I just want to do some roll call of some of the companies that have signed up. The latest to join is Ayuda Hub app. That's a digital service platform. They have also signed up. We have Ifriwara, who have also signed up. We have Games Energy Drink. We have Amigo Ghana. We've got Yomi Yogurt, have also signed up. McDan Group is in there. And we've got Premier Health Insurance, Piva Beverages, McDan Group. They have all signed up. Access Pensions, Nkulenu Industries. They have all signed up, and we are gearing up for the big tournament on August 9th in University of Ghana Stadium.
Really look delicious, that lineup there.
Yeah, man, it's exciting. I remember last year, if you saw what you did, not sure if you're ready enough to do same.
I'm actually back in the gym now.
Oh,
because
great.
I want to make amends.
You got to
know
make
what
amends.
I mean, right? It was
Absolutely.
a 100-meter dash.
And Muftau,
I don't know how he
beat you
managed
to
hopping along the tracks and getting over the line. But I want to get back.
Yeah, you need to get back. You need to get back.
But this time I want you on the track with me as well. Yeah.
Me. Oh, no problem. Yeah. I'll be there. So we'll see how it offers on August 9th. If your company hasn't registered, you want to make sure that you get on board. But just to wrap up with Black Queens, because they've made it to the quarterfinals of the ongoing Women's African Cup of Nations tournament. They are set to play Algeria in the quarterfinals. It's a big game. It's the first time in 9 years the Black Queens have made it to the quarterfinals now, and they're looking to make history by advancing to the semifinals. Now, here is their head coach, Kim Las-Boykegrin, who is confident in the team's chances in the knockout phase. He's expecting some tough matches, but he's hopeful.
Ghana, they missed one tournament, and the last time when they played it, it didn't qualify for the playoffs, the second phase. So of course that has been a big goal for us to take it to the playoff. And we know, like, now in the playoff, it's just one game and game by game, and all of the teams is super good. Everybody have been winning games, so of course, like, it's gonna be tough.
Tough. That's Kim Lasbok, head coach of the Black Queens. But my colleague Lawrence Beidou is in Morocco. He watched the game, and he's got this exciting thoughts on what we should expect against Algeria.
The most important thing is to build on momentum. I've seen Algeria play, I've watched them. They haven't looked like the great team that you expected from them some years ago. So there's a probability that the Black Queens will have the advantage over Algeria. But they have to ensure that they work harder than they did against Tanzania. And I thought if you're a player, you get a chance to wear national team jersey and be on that pitch in the starting 11, you need to chase down every ball. They need to give out that energy. They need to be active on the pitch. And I think that will be the point to Ghana making it to the next round of the competition.
Later tonight on Journeys at 8:30 as we build up to the quarter-final games in the Women's AFCON. That's it for sports events.
Thank you very much. It's still live on News Night. It's on Joy 99.7 FM, and some of your messages now on our WhatsApp console. Senna says the government must immediately bring the perpetrators to book on the head of the Equatia by-elections. Musa Abattoir in Asawase says, in this era of democracy, electoral violence should have no place in a democratic system. Ruben says, it always surprises me to the marrow when I hear the micro-minority pointing fingers at the NDC party as perpetrators of the violence. Major One in Kumasi says the announcement of the withdrawal of fuel allowances to government appointees coming on the eve of the 1 cedi tax on little fuel is a deceptive attempt by President of the Republic to create the wrong impression that his appointees too are also going to feel the negative impact of the levy. And this from Nanana Spinters Road says, remind me, was Hawa Kumsing arrested and apprehended for shooting into the voting crowd when she did. Dede says, we all heard what Hawa Kumsing that did, that she's still not being arrested. And Prof in Tama says, appears Mahama is making things so difficult for these MPP guys while he continues to receive public applause. The opposition guys struggle to get issues. Now, for many middle-class families, building a home is the only way out of the never-ending cycle of rent. But too often, the dream stalls, trapped between rising construction costs and runaway rent. In today's edition of our Habitat series, Carlos Caloni visits Tema Community 25, where unfinished homes tell the story of dreams put on hold.
A 2023 household survey by the Ghana Statistical Service revealed that Ghanaians spend nearly 28% of their monthly income on rent. For many in the middle class, the solution seems clear: build a home and break free. But that dream often becomes a trap. They start big to escape rent, but rising costs of building materials, poor planning, and unstable finances force many to abandon their projects halfway. Meet Desire Badasu, a young father who tried to break free from the rent maze.
It's a 5-bedroom house actually, with a hall and an extended attachment of an extra space for a hall. We have a laundry, we have a kitchen, we have the dining, then we have a study. So in general, we have a kitchen also upstairs. So if we couple it together, that would be 2 kitchens, 1 kitchen down, 1 kitchen up. We have 2 studies, 1 down, 1 up.
Desire began his dream home hoping to finish in 18 months, but unexpected spikes in building material costs have delayed the project for years.
The project was actually estimated to take barely 1.5 years maximum. Ideally, 1 year would have been better, but when we started, along the way, realized prices of things escalated. But after the first stage of the project, that's after finishing the ground floor, we realized we overshot our budget, because as of the time we started, cement price was around 50 cedis per bag, and then within a period of 4 to 5 months, it jumped up to 60, 80, by the time we're halfway through, we had already consumed that amount we had already projected for the first floor. So that actually delayed the project a bit. Right now, we are into 3 years. We are in our third year. The way things are going, we are still projecting that at least by the close of the year, we should be done with the roofing. So I could say roughly an extra 1 year to finish up everything.
Desire Badasu is one of the lucky few. He's at least managed to move his family into the ground floor as he battles rising costs to complete his dream home. Others aren't as fortunate. Across the country, skeletal structures of stalled dreams dot the landscape, silent reminders of hopes deferred. Construction consultant Abraham Lincoln Kokubo says the way out is simple. Dream within your means, set clear goals, and build with discipline from day one.
You need to identify the purpose for which you want to put up the building. Now, don't let that key purpose affect the start of your project. Now, if you have, let's say, a 40 by 80, which is like a half plot, or 40 by 70 or 50 by 50, square area of plot that you want to start your project, you need to seek an expert advice where that property land can be demarcated such that you get something that you go in there. For example, if you have just finished your university, you have landed one job, you can access some loan or something, you want to start your project, seek an advice on the cost of project. Now, ask yourself, do you want a place just to lay your head right now, whilst you dream of a bigger picture of what kind of house you want to have? So if you do that, you will realize that you don't overburden yourself so much in trying to take 5, 10, 15 years to finish your dream house. Whilst in doing that, you are still paying rental somewhere. So I would like to advise that you need to distinguish between your first house and your dream house.
With the Ghana Statistical Service projecting a housing deficit of 4.2 million units by 2030, prospective homeowners believe stable currency, lower inflation, and higher incomes are key to closing the gap. For Joy News, Carlos Keloni, Tema Community 25.
And my name is Evans Mensah, live from the studios here at Joy 99.7 FM. And guess who is joining me for Gig Squad? Hello, Paps.
Hi, Evans.
What's coming up tonight?
Samsung has released some new products.
Oh, don't tell me about it. Why? Tell me about it. I have been praying, fasting.
That what?
For just one of those.
Okay, then you don't have a problem at all.
Actually, you're going to give me one tonight.
No, we'll be discussing them.
Oh, please.
We'll have to plead with the Samsung people to see if they can bring us some.
I think they outdoor the new phone, right? What else?
Two of them, the flip and then the fold. Flip? Yeah. That's what you're looking at.
No, the fold.
The
one
fold,
that
yes.
opens like a fold.
Yeah, tablet, exactly.
That's the one I'm looking for. And then which are the one?
The flip. Then they did some updates also on their watches. And then their Ultras, the S series.
It's the fold. It's a fold. Do you know how much that is?
Not entirely sure how much it will be in Ghana, but in dollars. I mean, the prices are starting from like 1,999 USD.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good conversation to have. I am going to be too tempted, so I may not listen exactly. Because when I saw the advert and I saw the video of the outdooring of the phones, I was salivating.
We have to get one for you.
You should. Okay, stick and stay.